Hello Wolfers! Today's video is all about helping operations leaders like you to optimize something that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot, doesn't get the same headlines as for example, last mile delivery, but it's so very important for the success of your supply chain. It's actually the optimization on the first mile delivery. So today we'll be focusing on vendors and vendor setup. Now, getting the vendor setup right can really help you preventing some serious problems, sometimes disasters, even from a regulatory perspective and compliance perspective. So that's something that you really want to get right. And this is a topic that is important to talk about because we're talking about like a number of quiet fixes that, as mentioned, they don't necessarily get talked about a lot, but they are so very important. And you know why? Because there are things that commonly happen. By example, vendors they begin working with you without having complete documentation in place. It's actually quite common, more common than you can think, and quite problematic. Sometimes, we're rushed into making decisions and get started with things, and that's basically when things might go a little bit awry. Second thing that might happen is that GXP requirements, distribution practices, by example, gets ignored during rush onboarding or somehow underplayed a little bit. And some other troubles might occur. By example, there is no system for expiry dates. So sometimes, your vendors actually don't realize that something doesn't have to be distributed. There might be like a number of quite serious consequences, again, both from a regulatory perspective and from a customer perspective. So we are talking about potential penalties, we're talking about losing sales and customers in general. So that could be quite serious indeed. Now, there are a few things that you really want to get right. I'm gonna list three here, just three, but there's so much more. First one is building a digital onboarding checklist. And very important, do that by category. So depending on the product category the vendor is qualified for, you might want to have like a separated, slightly different checklist. Some things will be common to all vendors, but some other things could be very, very specific to the product. Second things, get the sequence of events right. And what that means is, by example, require documents upload before the PO creation or PO approval. Okay, so make sure that this is like a mandatory step to go through before the PO can be passed on. And another thing, quite simple to implement, again, a quiet fix, but very, very important, make sure you have a automated system to flag vendors whose documents are actually expired and require renewal. Good news, as usual, there is a very complete checklist, very complete document that you can find in the link here in the video description where you can download this guide towards first mile vendor setup optimization. So you might want to take a look at that. You might want to actually tag someone who is involved with vendor management, vendor onboarding in this video for them to take a look at. And as well, you might just want to get in touch with us so that we can have a conversation and discuss your challenges with vendors and see whether there's a way we can help. Conversation is free of charge, so just feel free to get in touch. I look forward to seeing you again next week.